Good morning, everybody. Wow, it's amazing to have so many of you with us already, and we've only just started. This is so exciting to see, and I'm sure there is an expectation to learn so much and to engage with the buyers and the support companies that are here today. So welcome everybody. It's our first official online supplier matchup of 2024. It's scary to think that we're already almost done with 5 months of the year. Wow. Almost already halfway through, and things are only getting better as we get there. Our next session is very exciting, and I hope all of you are excited to learn more. I just realized my camera is not on. I sincerely apologize. I hope you are all excited to learn a bit more about the world of City of Cape Town. The main sponsors of the Smart Supplier program. I apologize, a tongue twister there. And it's amazing that we have Mr. Fabian Kennedy with us today that will give us some more insights into the procurements and RFQs within City of Cape Town. Mr. Kennedy, thank you so much for joining today. If you don't mind just switching your camera on and going off mute and perhaps just introduce yourself. We have given you an option just to share your screen as well, but thank you so much for being with us today.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much.
I don't know. Can you see my screen or the video? Not
Not
sure
yet.
how this works.
It might still be, I don't know if you see the green share screen bottom at the
Okay,
bottom.
let me just see there
There we go.
quickly.
Now I can see you now as well. The camera was on and then off.
Let me rather. I think it's taking too much of the bandwidth, but not to delay the engagement. Can you still hear me, Paulina?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to continue. My name is Fabian Kennedy. I'm the head of procurement within the city of Cape Town. And I just want to quickly, I'm going to take you through some slides that I've presented or that I prepared for you. Um,
Are you sharing
and
your screen
mainly,
from your side?
I,
Let me
I,
see
I,
it.
I'm, a- I'm actually going to or about to do that now.
No problem. I just wanted to mention that we just can't see the screen you want to share yet, but it's not a problem. You're welcome to continue with the introduction.
Yes. So let me just get this right first. Strategy. Where's this document now? There we go. Just let me know if you can see.
We can see it. Thank you so much.
Perfect. So as I mentioned, I'm Fabian Kennedy from the city of Cape Town, and I'm heading the procurement environment, which is all requests for goods and services in construction works below 750,000. So previously, it was up to the value of 200,000, but since the issuance of the new regulations, that total has increased for us as a metropolitan municipality to 750,000. So going directly into the presentation, why why I'm here today is just to give you an idea of our procurement structure and our procurement processes, whether we centralize or distributed. And then secondly is to give you some insight into the top 10. It was actually they wanted top 5, but I've decided to give the top 10 procurement categories in our organization. And then also just some information in terms of where we advertise our opportunities and where you can go to access those opportunities. Continuing, um, so in terms of our procurement, within the city, it is centralized. We have 13 directorates, and our main directorates, which is responsible for most of our procurement requirements, is community services and health. And under community services and health, we have libraries, and we have recreation in parks, and we have other social facilities. And then under energy, we have electricity generation and distribution. Under safety and security, we have law enforcement, we have fire services, disaster management center there. Under urban waste management, we've got urban waste management and waste services. And under urban mobility, that directorate, they deal with public transport, roads, and infrastructure management. And then water and sanitation is also one of our large directorates. They deal with bulk services, commercial services, distribution services. And then lastly, we've got human settlements that deals with housing development, informal settlements, and public housing. So it's important to know that, we have various stores across the city where we house and where we house various inventory requirements. So energy would have a lot of consumables, electrical works, and I will go into the next slide to give you the detail of the type and the type of commodities that we generally would buy. Um, Secondly, uh, our organization, as an organization, we have 27,000 staff members. So we have 13 directorates that service the requirements of the 27,000 staff members. And currently registered on our supplier database, we've got 19 plus minus 19 suppliers that are actively registered who we transact with, you know, on a daily basis. I've just taken the liberty to include the total expenditure on RFQs, and that is now from 1 July up to date where we are now. We spend about 230 million, and that is on RFQs. Any questions on this before I move to the next slide, or will we be dealing with the questions after this, Paulina?
Fabian, I think maybe we hold off on the questions until after your presentation. I just want to, sometimes the questions can take over the entire session. So to allow
Okay,
for maximum info, it helps to do it at the end.
perfect. Then moving to the next slide. This is just to give you an indication of our top procurement commodities that we have. First on the list is clothing and footwear, firefighting. So all our staff. So this would be fire services, law enforcement. There's a lot of PPE that we procure, and we also have formal tenders in place for those. But those that is not covered on the formal tenders, we process that via RFQ. So the total number of RFQs that we've processed to date for the financial year is 354, which amounts to 22 million. And then our energy department, they buy electrical cables, accessories, lighting, and fixtures and traffic signals, equipment. And to date, the total number of RFQs advertised is 685, with a total amount of 15,000 approximately. And then we also have our water and sanitation directorate and human settlements directorate. They procure plumbing materials, tools and equipment also there's other directorates that also utilizes that category. So our energy department will also buy tools for their purposes, and that the expenditure on that commodity is about 15 million. Then building and hardware materials, it's about 13 million. And then we've got electrical components, and that would be other than the electrical cables, that is about another 12 million. Stationary printer cartridges, pre-printed stock, like our community services and the health, they use these these patient folders and anything that they need to print, books, registers, and that would fall under pre-printed stationery. and the expenditure there is about 11 million. And then also we have training across the cities for those where we don't have tenders in place. There's RFQs that we advertise for various training requirements. And then also there's catering. There's a lot of interventions that we have. And there's catering, which is approximately up to 9 million. And then ICT and audiovisual services that spans across the city. We generally procure via the CETA, but we've had some challenges with CETA, and for the requirements that we cannot cover, we advertise those. If it's within the or under the 750,000 value, we do advertise all our ICT and audiovisual requirements. We advertise via RFQ, and that is now, as it stands, 9 million. And then there's also civil engineering supplies and sewer and water. And I think, how do I hide this? And that is approximately 7 million that we've spent to date on that commodity. And that list of commodity goes on. We have a number of commodities that we do procure. I've just given you the top 10. And then I've also included, just to give you an idea of the number of RFQs that we advertise on a quarterly basis, is about in year. So in quarter one, it's about 6,000, quarter two, 5, and respectively. So on average, we would do about 4,500 to 5,000 RFQs per quarter. And that amounts to about almost just above 20,000. Moving to the next slide. I've included in terms of our procurement processes, and important to mention, I'm not going to cover the tender process. That would be the process, anything above 750,000, where we follow a formal competitive bidding process. That would fall with our tenders department, who's also part of our finance section, and they deal with that. This engagement is specifically focused on uh, the procurement requirements up to 750,000. So the typical components, in terms of our process, would be we would be advertising an RFQ document. It will either be in that format, or we will advertise via e-procurement, where you'll need to either upload supporting information, and you'll need to type in your price, your bid prices. So what you will find here is there's certain items, and I think for the benefit and for the time that we have, I don't want to go through, so I'll just mention on a high level the information. So I've noted down some of the information that is required, that is very important to note, which is a closing date and times, whether if there's a site meeting or a compulsory site meeting applicable. Then the pricing schedule is very critical for us, and the preference point system which we use, which is something that's been amended since 2022, where no longer the emphasis is only on BEE, but rather at specific goals that we use to allocate preference points. And within the city, for under 750,000, we apply, we give, because the 750 falls under the 80/20 price and specific goals system, that 20 points, 10 of that points is for female ownership, and the other 10 is for SMME. So if you're an EME or QSE, you do get those. We do allocate you those 10 points, subject to you submitting supporting evidence that you qualify for those points. And so moving to the next one, and before I move, actually, this is just also an indication of our evaluation process, where we'll look at, firstly, mandatory criteria, functionality, if it is applicable for our goods. Generally, there's no functionality that we apply. It's basically off-the-shelf items that we generally advertise. So we will request suppliers to upload technical data sheets or sample pictures, so that we can see that the item that you are providing is to specification. And then lastly, the last phase would be moving to price and preference. Moving to the next slide. This is just some detail into the mandatory requirements that we can request. And then also you can read up on functionality criteria, generally the things, that we look into. Um, I've mentioned here some helpful tips that you can also go through. I'll make this presentation available to Paulina, so you can also go through this at your own leisure. And then further, as I mentioned, in terms of the preference point system, we do allocate points from 2000, from above 2000. So with the city, um, we have petty case up to 250,000, above 250 rand to 2000. That is where we get one quotation. Anything above 2000 up to 750,000 is where we advertise formally through our e-procurement system. Moving on. So when we do advertise a document, it will look like this. And you will notice there's a quotation reference number in there. Also, the closing time you'll find on there. This is just to mention a few or some of the important things on the document. What is also important to complete is the declaration of interest. Also, there's a section that deals with BEE, and then also there's a certificate of independent quotation that you need to complete as well. That's important for us. And then continuing from this slide, there's some other things that you can read through in terms of insurance requirements that we need. Um, so that is that slide, and then some useful information in terms of just general and common errors that we do find that suppliers make. You'll see in some instances there's not signatures where signatures are needed. But all of these things you can read through. I'm now more interested in the questions that will emanate from this presentation. Where did it go now? Some general information. We do publish our awards on the city web, um, where we give an indication of the awards that we make, the number, who received the awards. And also we have a 30-day turnaround time in terms of payment. We do within the city, within a week or two. That is the aim for us to pay our suppliers. Generally, we don't leave things up to the 30 days. As soon as invoices are received, we do pay those. And then on your right side, you'll see some useful context. So if you have an e-procurement inquiry, you can submit those here. If you have a supplier registration inquiry or how to get registered, if you want that information, you can drop an email to this mailbox. And then also, if you want to register on our e-procurement as a supplier, you will, once you click on this link, it will take you directly to the portal where you need to register on our e-procurement portal as a supplier. Yeah, so that concludes the presentation that I put together, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much, Fabian, for that insightful presentation. I just had to take over briefly from Paulina. We do have some questions in the chat, so I'll just take the questions that we have. So the first one is, good day, Mr. Kennedy. How do you register to be in your database? We are doing landscaping and horticulture and building maintenance. That is from Fancy Gova.
Yeah, so I believe Andile, he said he will cover the part that deals with the supplier registration. In this presentation at the bottom, there's an email that where you can um, send a request for the process of how to register. Also, the link included in this presentation will take you through directly to the portal where you will capture the required information and upload certain information, similar to what you would do when you do a CSD registration. It's a similar process that you will apply in order to be eligible to register on our database. You must first be registered on this CSD, which is the Central Supplier Database. So there is a step-by-step guide also that can be made available. Our supplier registration component generally deals with this. My function here is specifically to deal with anything related to procurement and not, as so much as the registration. But I've put the links in the presentation, which will be made available to you, and it also takes you through a step-by-step process where also you can download a guide. Next question.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I am back. I apologize for that. We've got a question from Bernadette Duddy. She's asking, what is the turnaround time for a response for an RFQ once it's submitted?
Okay. So just to give you some context, so when a requirement is below 30,000, we advertise it for a 2-day turnaround time. Right, and that's the minimum days. And then also if it's anything above 30,000 up to 750,000, where the minimum days that we need to comply with is 7 days. Now, depending on what item you buy, there's evaluations that happens in process that impacts on the timelines. So when you submit an offer, we should be able to finalize an RFQ within 21 to 30 days after that period. And you will note our quotation conditions. It says it's valid for 60 days. So there's sufficient time. So when you quote, you need to be cognizant of, the validity period of the quotation to allow, for a sufficient time, in the process, and also to take into account price escalations, etc. I hope that answers you, Bernadette.
Thank you so much, Fabian. Kiabetswe has her hand raised. So Kiabetswe, if you don't mind just unmuting yourself and quickly posing your question, please. You're still on mute, unfortunately. There we go.
Paulina, I know I'm pretty, but I'm a male. Hey.
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
All right, I think Mr. Kennedy has already answered some of my questions. The one was the registration, which he said we're going to get the presentation, and then the other one was the turnaround time, which he has answered. And then now I wanted to find out some clients of ours want a public liability of 10 million, and that comes with a hefty price tag if you don't have a contract. I wanted to find out from him what is the requirement of the city. Do you guys also require 10 million, or as a prerequisite, or can I increase my public liability insurance to 10 million once I get the contract? Thank you.
Thank you for that one. So yes, we do require public liability of 5 million. And that is only at contract phase. So only once you get an RFQ, it won't be a prerequisite requirement when we advertise. But when we do make the award and we engage with you with a contract, at that stage, you should have that in place. Does that answer you? And for tenders, there's a different public liability value that kicks in. Does hope that answers you?
If you don't mind, how much is it for tenders? Sorry.
I believe it is 20 million. And it will also depend on the nature of the tender that is being advertised. And it will be stipulated in the tender conditions.
Thank you so much. Our next hand raised is Nokutula Masiba. If you don't mind just unmuting yourself quickly and posing your question.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for your presentation. I've been registered with the City of Cape Town's e-procurement, but to date, I can tell you that I've never been lucky or to get any. And I've been asking around, like my people who are like black people, if they do get, but it looks like it's selective and exclusive, and I don't know if they do an assessment to look at the demographics, how many like of people of color who are actually benefiting from the system. Because for me, I've given up. I've been trying, and the system is so exclusive, and I don't know. Maybe it's me. I'm not doing it all right, but I would like to see a presentation where, like, black catering companies are really getting some benefits from the procurement of the city of Cape Town. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for that comment that you made. So, firstly, we are regulated, in terms of a legislative framework where we cannot decide to submit or just make awards based on um, specific requirements. Our processes must be fair. Everybody's evaluated in the same manner, and then we have the issue of price, and we have in terms of our evaluation phase, where we issue preference points, and then there's also the issue of price. But yes, there's a lot of competition in the market when it comes to the catering, and I can tell you, if you're talking about the catering commodity, we had interventions at the business hub here in Cape Town where we've sent mails to all our supplier market to come and to register themselves and to alert them of the opportunities. And what I've asked my team is to put together the number of RFQs for catering that we advertise so they can see the opportunities that is available. When we advertise on e-procurement, there's only two suppliers that quote, or one or three suppliers that quotes. For sure, and I told, and that was a concern for me, and hence the reason I think it was maybe 2 months ago. I said they need to run with this, and then there was a slight improvement, but not the way I wanted. I ideally want at least 10 or 9, 10 or 5 submissions for RFQ would be better. But now, we find that suppliers are just not quoting. Oh, goodness. Hello?
Oh, sorry, Miss.
Oh, can you hear me?
I don't know if I. Yes, I can. I don't know if I can come in just to speak on that, because one of the requirements is halal certificate, and when you go to halal, you are required to employ a Muslim person. There's a very steep, high requirement which excludes us black people, and when you find that on that team of people that must be catered for, only one person is halal, of which you could outsource for that person, but it takes you out. So I've given up as a caterer, and I think most of our people have given up also. I don't know how they got it in terms of getting halal certificates, because the requirements are so taking us out of the system. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you for that. Yes. So as you mentioned, yes, there is some dietary requirements, and definitely it is something that we can look at, where we sit in procurement. And as you know, our procurement is centralized. We get requests from our line departments, and they will indicate vegan, the dietary requirements as an example, and we'll advertise it accordingly. But nothing prevents us, Nokotola, from, you know, taking it another step and asking the line department, how many is it that is allowed. But they will have also engagements where they don't know if somebody is allowed, as an example, and they put that requirement in there. So there's other dynamics that comes into play. But I think it is something that I will explore internally to find out, to put in a question when a request is submitted to us, is it one or two people? Um, before we finalize or before we go to the market with the requirement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we can maybe just shift to the next question. Anton Gomez has his hand raised. If you don't mind just unmuting yourself and quickly asking your question.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me well.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Your voice is your volume is very low on our side. We can't hear you clearly. Um, I'm so sorry. It's a very muffled sound. I can't hear you clearly at all.
Okay, good morning.
Oh,
Now?
there we go. That's better. Much
Okay.
better.
I'm so sorry for the noise in the background. I just want to touch base on what my other fellow SME said now with regards to getting tenders. We were also registered from last year and we never received the tile that pops up. We never received the tile that pops up where they give you the tenders or the work. And if I look at the amount of work that is coming out, there are 3 areas that we cover. And not one of those anytime we got me invited for an invitation or so. And we went to the supplier matchup last month, and we went to the table of City of Cape Town and we asked them, and what was handed over to us is just a list of how you apply for online tenders. But since this day, I'm still also struggling myself. I went to my ward counselor to reach out for help. And like I say, here now, there is like an amount of 6,500 tenders goes out, but I haven't received one or like I say, on the online platform, the tile that needs to pop up where they present to you the RFQs, I never received that file and I'm registered. All my things are in place. So if someone can just advise me on what I must do, who I can go see just to get the work coming in, just to help my business and myself. I don't know if this will help the others also. Thank you.
Thank you. So on that one, that appears to be a supplier registration inquiry because they need to go into your profile to see, what is happening on your side. If you, for some or other reason, are not seeing the commodities that you're registered for or the opportunities that is being advertised, then definitely it is something that you need to raise. So we have a mailbox eprocurement.rfq@capetown.gov.za. It's in the presentation which will be made available to you. So you don't need to come into our offices. We can deal with that once as soon as you send a mail with the details of your inquiry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next question, Fatima Davids, if you don't mind just unmuting yourself quickly and posing your question.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Paulina. Mr. Kennedy, I just want to ask, and I think this will help the other SMMEs. So with the supply chain portal, we have to go into the portal every day to see what opportunities are available to us. So we have received work once or twice in the past. That was when I was doing the RFQs, but I have a challenge now in that we've got youth that we took into our business, and we need to arrange training for these individuals, because if we don't go in on the portal on a daily basis, we will miss those opportunities, which has happened. The few times that I could manage it, I do my own cold calling, so I'm always out on the road trying to source for business. However, this supply chain portal is something, like I'm saying, that we are missing out on the opportunities, and I need the guys to be trained, because the technical stuff like the uploads or the completion of the required documents, it's a bit it's challenging to know, because I know that there's a criteria. If we don't meet the criteria, then that bid that we put through will not qualify for that RFQ that we wanted to participate in. And I think for the other SMMEs, it's important that we go into the portal on a daily basis to check under the commodity that you've registered for. Those opportunities are there for us.
Thank you for that. We have a section within our department called enterprise and investment. So they have sessions where they give training on how to do business, how to submit quotations that they schedule. Paulina, I don't know, is Andile in this meeting?
Fabian, it does look like it. I'm just not sure if he's at his desk right now, but I have a suggestion is to put a document or a link together, a virtual document that we can share with the audience and questions specifically to City of Cape Town outside of the RFQ process that they can slot it on the document and I can share it with yourself and Andile that can and the ladies that work with the supply portal and then just response on those we can share that directly or we can figure out a way to get the responses back to the SMMEs. Would that be all right with you?
Yeah, that would be all right. And dealers should have that information in this. There are guides in terms of how to submit. We have user-friendly guides that they can that takes you through a step-by-step process of how to submit RFQs. So we do have those available. Paulina, I'll also make available what I have on my side.
Perfect. I will just share with you the responses from that document probably on Friday, but yes, we will definitely make that document available. Mr. Kennedy, we are at the end of your session now. I know there are a couple of questions left, but I do want to respect your time. You can just guide me if you're in a position to take one more question or if you have to go to your next meeting.
No, that's fine. Let me take just 2-3 questions.
Okay, no problem. So the next question I have is from Mayo and Lovu. If you don't mind just unmuting yourself and quickly posing your question.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Hi, Paulina. Mr. Kennedy, thank you so much for the opportunity. My question, I think I've got two questions. One, I think I've written on the chart there. With regards to when completing a quotation on the EPS, to the documentation that you're meant to submit, I see there's an acknowledgement of deduction, number one, and then the insurance. Do you always have to attach the insurance? And is the acknowledgement of deduction, must it always be on the same date? Meaning every day when I respond, I need to complete a new one with the same date. I think this is the first question. The second one relates to the first work that I've got with the city. I responded to an RFQ of supplying a certain commodity in the health and medical aspect. And they sent an email inquiring for certification, NSS, data sheet. I responded to all of those. And then finally, they sent me a contract. I signed the contract within a day and sent it back to them. And then I got a response just after they'd received my contract that the RFQ has been cancelled. So I sent an email back saying, okay, is it my delivery time? Let us know so we can improve our processes. Why has it been cancelled? I got a response back that was the RFQ has been cancelled. A different process has been followed as per the order. The discontinuation is not related to my delivery time. How often do these kind of things happen? I know that legally, if they have not signed the contract, then I can't hold them accountable, but it does not mean that I've not incurred cost or time. What do you advise in instances like this, and how often does this kind of thing happen?
Mayo, that generally there are instances where that happens, and as part of our process, what happens is we first need to see, do we have a valid tender in place for any requirement? And sometimes it so happens that that the line department will come with a requirement and we advertise it, and only later it is discovered that there is actually an active tender in place for a specific requirement. So I don't know the details and the reasons as to why it might have been a funding issue, why they maybe cancelled this, but generally that does not happen. But there are instances where there's some things, important things happening, and they need to cancel certain requirements and proceed with other required service deliverables that they need. But I can tell you, it is not something that happens frequently. It will be very rarely that if you at contract stage that they will cancel, you know, an RFQ. Then in terms of your first question, yes, you need to upload those documents with each and every submission, because each and every submission is evaluated by the respective line departments, and their documents must be available. If there is an issue on the documents, we will communicate to you to say, the date has expired. You need to complete or upload or submit a new one. Then it is fine. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
Next.
Thank you. We have another one. I see, Nokutula, your hand is still raised. Did you have another question for Fabian? I'm not sure if you. There we go.
No, ma'am. I think it
Okay.
does raise itself. I'm covered. Thank you so much.
No problem. Just checking. Thank you so much. Kiabetswe, I see your hand is raised as well. Do you mind going off mute and posing your question?
Hi, Mr. Kennedy. I hope you don't take us as if we are attacking you or we being negative. It's just that this opportunity only comes once, and we want you to give us clarity. I know that the requirement for dealing with the CT is that you need to have an office within the city of Cape Town. Now, for a company like ours, which has a national footprint, to sustain an office that is not sustainable in terms of contracts. It is rather quite difficult. So I wanted to find out from you, Mr. Kennedy, is it a must that the company needs to have a registered address within the city, or I would need to then have an office once I get a contract, because we offer our services nationwide? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. Firstly, we, depending on the nature of the requirement or the service that is required, generally, it is not a requirement that we include in our RFQs. You can go browse our tenders. You won't find any locality requirements in there where we'll say you must have an office here. Most of the things in our space now, in the RFQ space, and I'm specifically referring to the procurement side, is general supply and delivery requirements, where you don't necessarily need, a local address. We transact with companies in Joburg or Durban, wherever, and they deliver services, to us. So depending on the nature of the service that you render, there would be some instances where it will be practical, to have somebody on site. And you will just need to, and we've moved away from, there was some court ruling, a while ago that dealt with that restrictive, see it as a restrictive practice, you understand? And we've since moved away from that practice. But there are instances, I believe, where there is a need for that. However, in the general sense of it, we do not um, insert any the requirement that you need to have a local office for RFQs. I hope that answers you.
Thank you very much. Is that requirement understood by your officials who do the bid verification or adjudication?
Now you
Or is
see
that
that
only understood by you? Because I don't want to cast aspersions, but some of our bids would then not be favored because we don't have a local address, and hence I'm asking that should one then open an office even though you don't have any existing contract with the city?
Yeah, look, colleagues, I want, no, not colleagues, but I want the supplier market to be clear on this. The scope of my presentation deals with RFQs. What you're asking now is a tender-related requirement, which is potentially a multi-million rand contract where they need that requirement. I don't know, but I can only speak to the procurement side of things. So this is for procurement requirements below 750. If you have a tender related question about a local office being a prerequisite requirement, you need to get hold of our tender office. We have designated people who deals with tenders. The scope of this engagement deals with procurement requirements below 750. I just need to be clear on that. So you will need to further engage our tender office on this specific requirement. But if it relates to a 751, I can tell you we do not include the local office.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Fabian. I really appreciate the time you have taken to share your knowledge and understanding and helping all the SMMEs understand a little bit better into the insights of RFQ and procurement within City of Cape Town. Thank you so much for the presentation that you put together and the time that you have spent with us. It's truly invaluable, and I definitely will be sharing the presentation with the SMMEs along with this recording, and any questions that are submitted via the document that we will create, I will also share with you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fabian. I hope you have a wonderful day, and good luck with the rest of your engagements for today.
Thank you very much.